Virgo Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2023 Astro Update. It's Raina here. Well, this is a month that I've been waiting for because I knew back in 2022 that this month existed and that it would be like a massive change. A few years ago, when we had the shutdown, it occurred right around the time of the equinox, the spring equinox, well, in the northern hemisphere at least. And that set a bunch of things into motion. And now, a few years later, we're experiencing some major change right at that same time and subsequent weeks later. But even at the beginning of the month, we're going to see that Saturn changes signs. The two main planets that change signs, we have Saturn going into Pisces for the first time in 30 years, and Pluto going into Aquarius for the first time in 200 plus years. And even Mars going into Cancer. That's something that hasn't happened in 7 months. And that's significant. Mars is an inner planet, so it tends to change signs very quickly within weeks, not months. So this is why I'm saying this about change. But in addition to that, you're going to have a full moon in your sign. So there's a lot going on there. So let's just start at the beginning. The sun is in Pisces. That is your opposite sign. So it's in the opposite house, the seventh house of committed partnership. This is putting a spotlight on that area of your life. Now, some of you who are single may say, well, I don't have a partner. But you may be thinking about relationships at the very least. Especially on the second when Mercury goes there. You may be thinking about past relationships that you've had, and especially if you want a new one, you may be putting a lot of mental energy into this area. And sure enough, on the 7th of the month, Saturn goes into this area. And I think it's important to note that Neptune has been hanging out here for years. Neptune went into Pisces in 2012, and now we're in 2023, so that's already 11 years. Neptune is a generational planet, so it has cycles of 15 years or so. I don't know if that changes because I always thought that Pluto was 15 years, and come to find out that Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. So I guess sometimes they can vary in exactly how many years they go through these signs, but it's a long time. And so with Neptune in the seventh house being there for so many years, some of you may have had experiences where you committed to somebody only to find out that they were not who you thought they were. And in some cases, that might have been on you if you have Venus in conjunction with Neptune in your chart, or not conjunction, even like a square. I guess conjunction could be challenging too sometimes, but or an opposition. You may, or some kind of a hard angle when it comes to being able to perceive relationships easily. These things can happen more readily. But in any case, a person may have come into your life. They might have been a literal Pisces even, and you formed a commitment with them only to find out they were not committed, or they were, maybe they were already married, or, hopefully you didn't get married to them and they were a bigamist. But Neptune can be deceptive, addictive. So finding out that somebody had an addiction that they hid from you also, and it might have made you wonder about relationships and, whether or not they're worth it. So Saturn going into this area is going to give you more sobriety, meaning clear headedness, groundedness. Neptune is very foggy. It's idealistic. I'm not trying to make Neptune out to be 100% bad, but it can definitely create complications in certain areas when people are trying to make good choices because they may be seeing what they want to see in that person in the seventh house and be committed to the wrong person. So this can give you a very serious desire for a relationship. So if you're single, you know, that's for sure. But you may already have somebody in mind, and Mercury could be getting that marriage license. It could be the contract or something. Saturn wants to make things very, you know, Saturn's looking to the future, you know, for the long haul, and that sense of permanency rather than just doing things in the moment. Saturn wants that foundation. So um, there's, I would say that there might be a good chance that by the time that this transit is over, if you're already in a relationship, that you may actually get married, or if you're living with somebody, that you get married, because Saturn would probably frown on that. And there's, I'm not married. I live with someone, so it's not to say that I'm, being moralistic. It has nothing to do with that. It's the Saturn influence that's very traditional. But also, one of the reasons that these traditions exist is because the person believes that it makes things, there's like a continuity factor, um, which is part of like that traditional concept of marriage, which is that it's for a lifetime, not just on a whim for whatever time the person wants. That's a commitment for a lifetime. My feeling about that is that it's the spirit, not the law, meaning that, it's great to have that sentiment. And if it really pans out that way, that's awesome. But I personally don't believe that anybody should stay in a bad situation because of tradition or religion. And actually, religion is part of the tradition too. Because, I mean, in some cases, it's really bad and it could adversely affect somebody's well being, their mental and physical health. So I think that being intentional about things is always the best course of action, meaning that you're really aware of, what you're doing and why you're doing it. So, yeah, I talk more about Saturn going into Pisces and Pluto going into Aquarius in a video that I did of those two combined. So I'm going to link that someday soon because I keep forgetting. Okay, so you can check that out. And I actually should do that right away because people are not going to come back to this video probably. But anyway, this is amazing because on the same day we have the full moon at 16 degrees of Virgo. So this is in your first house of the self. Now, when there's a full moon, the sun is opposing it in the opposite sign, opposite house. So it's in the same house as it's that relationship house where Saturn has just entered, where Mercury is and where Pluto is. So isn't that amazing that this is happening? Um, it really talks about your needs. The first house can shine a light on what you need, Virgo. And one thing I didn't say about Saturn in the seventh house is if you're already coupled, it could be that you have to deal with some kind of test or yeah, I mean, that's the best way I can put it, like a test to your relationship, because Saturn doesn't like anything that is excess. So it kind of likes to pare things down. So if a relationship is really dead weight on your life, then it will likely let that go. And you can see that when you look back on it, you can see that it was already on its way out, because there's a saying, I think, I'm sure some other astrologers said something like, if your relationship is on the rocks, then it would probably finish it off. If a relationship, isn't perfect, but it's, basically sound, then it will strengthen it. Because, you know, all relationships go through trials and tribulations. Uh, I mean, I would think, if you're talking about over a course of years, whether it's to the relationship itself, like some challenge like infidelity, or whether the individual is experiencing their own problems that affect the relationship, or even just having children, something that, when they're young, and it is a very kind of stressful, exhausting, type time in their life. All of these things can create problems, unemployment. So it's really about how the people um, bind together, and sometimes they grow apart, and that just is how it is. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. Um, but yeah, if your relationship, if you're in a relationship and it is, you know, something that you feel is not working, that full moon can help you to let go. And maybe you see within yourself that you allowed somebody to manipulate you, to guilt you. Um, and you say, maybe you vow to yourself, I'm never going to allow anybody to control me the way that that person did. You just may be feeling this sense of like, you're going to do things differently from here on out. Letting go. Full moons can bring illumination, but they can bring letting go, endings. And this is within yourself. So that might affect the relationship, but you're starting the ball rolling by letting go of something within yourself. On the 16th, Venus goes into Taurus. This is a friendly angle to you called a trine. It's very nice. And actually, it's it's the easiest flowing aspect for manifestation. It's coming from the ninth house, and this can indicate that you are, for those of you who are single, you may be um, attracted to somebody from a different country, a different culture, different race. This can be money that you have for travel, spending money on travel, a vacation. The same day Mars comes out of its shadow, and this is in Gemini. And for Virgo people, this has been affecting your 10th house of career. So I wonder how this Mars transit all these months has affected Virgos. Have you been feeling that you've been battling people in positions of authority, which Mars can suggest? Or simply on your own front, if you have been very ambitious, but then you got sidetracked somehow when Mars went retrograde in late October until the middle of January. Did something happen there? Because when Mars went retrograde, you might have found that it was very difficult to muster up the energy to do something. But these kinds of things have, silver linings, because so, for instance, when Mars goes through a house, it can be like a bull in a china closet, where it's just kind of, you have a lot of energy and you really want to do something, but either you're there's a sense of urgency, but what is motivating you? Sometimes people are motivated by fear, or they're motivated by um, some sort of um, egoic reason. They want to prove themselves. And it's really important to do things for the right reasons. So after that retrograde, now that Mars is coming out of its shadow, it has resolved that whole 7 month cycle. And now you can truly feel that whatever is going on when Mars is in that 10th house, that is coming from the perspective of having gone through all of that. So, whatever that has meant for you, now we are truly moving forward. And you may see that your career matters really start to progress because they were, still held down a little bit even when Mars went direct because Mars still wasn't full force. So just observe it, see if that really pans out. And yeah, so that's on the 16th. And then on the 19th, Mercury goes into Aries. And on the 20th, the Sun goes into Aries. So Mercury is your ruler, and Aries is your eighth house. So these are eighth house transits. You actually have Jupiter over here as well. For Virgo people, this can involve other people's money. Okay, so whether we're talking about a parent's estate, and this does not mean that the parent has necessarily passed away. They may be incapacitated to some degree, and you are either Mercury can be that you are looking into it, or that you are actually, yeah, that you are looking things over. Maybe you're going to, or you're signing some kind of a document. Um, and there might be other siblings that are involved as well, but it could be that you're hearing news about this. And Jupiter being there can simply mean benefiting from it, from inheritances, or again, sometimes a parent will give property or money while they're still alive, that you have access to it. Somehow you have gain, or I think the eighth house can even be investments. I know that the fifth house is about speculation, including gambling and probably stocks, but I think the eighth house can also be that kind of thing. So you might be lucky with some stock that really expands. With Jupiter, there's an expansion. But so, yeah, so the concentration is going into this area. Now, the other thing, too, the 20th is the astrological new year. So this is one of those power points of the year. And on the very next day, we have a new moon at 0 degrees of Aries. So that really hits home this idea of new beginnings. And the other thing that the eighth house can be is other people's, well, I was going to say other people's money. I just said that. By the way, with other people's money, it could be a marriage partner. So if you are joining forces with somebody and you are benefiting from their money, that could be Jupiter. But also if you are divorcing someone, um, or anything, seventh house can be a lawsuit. So if you're receiving money from a lawsuit, then that could be Jupiter too, because there may have been some kind of a negative circumstance that led to you having to have a lawsuit, but the upshot is that you are experiencing financial gain from it. So, oh, what was I going to say? Oh, what I was going to say is, in addition to that, the eighth house is Scorpio's domain in astrology. So it's all about the metaphysical side of life and about transformation. This is why death is associated with the eighth house, because it's, such uh, a a type of transformation. But anyway, the the thing about the eighth house, in terms of metaphysics, the occult, astrology and the tarot could be put into the eighth house. But like shamanism is one that I talk about because with earth signs, there are earth religions. Paganism is as well. Um, but that idea of transforming oneself is very appealing to me, maybe because I have my sun in the eighth house, but I have the moon in Virgo. So Virgo is a sign that seeks perfection. And it's obvious that that can be dangerous in the sense that a person can never be satisfied with themselves. They can always see room for improvement. But on the plus side, that can lead to being somebody who is seeking a seeking expansion, seeking who's growth oriented. If you play your cards right, pardon the pun with tarot cards, eighth house. So this is something that may appeal, a religion like, or a spiritual path like shamanism, because it is earth based, and you're an earth sign. So that's why I was going there. So this may be something in 2023 and 2024 that is really coming up for you, because you're going to have eclipses here starting in um whatchamacallit, in April. You're going to have an eclipse in the eighth house. And yeah, so set your intentions for what you would like to manifest in this area of life. And don't just think that it has to be for this year, because you're going to have eclipses here in 2024 and probably even going into 2025. The eclipse season for every sign is 18 months. And you're going to have the North Node going here too. So that will really, it's connected to the eclipses. It really sets the tone for that period in your life of what you're doing or what you're meant to go towards. On the 23rd, Pluto goes into Aquarius, only to 0 degrees, and then it goes back into fellow Earth sign Capricorn. So that means that it will basically be staying in your 5th house. Let's put it that way for 2023, as it flirts with that 0 degrees, which could fall into your 5th house cusp. I mean 6th house cusp. But in any case, like I said, I have a video that I go into greater depth of that, but I really talk about Pluto in the 5th house because that's where the action is. When Pluto goes retrograde, it's going to go back into that 5th house. And when it's retrograding, it's really going to be more intense because Pluto is already intense. But then, it's like really about that shadow work, I would say, when it comes to love. And because you have Saturn in the 7th house, this really means that Virgo is going to have to deep dive when it comes to issues surrounding love and relationships in 2023 and beyond, because Pluto won't finally leave Capricorn until 2024. But just to give you a little preview, Pluto in the 6th house can be very good for people who want to do service to others that has kind of a healing theme, because Pluto can be that kind of transforming other people's lives through health issues. So if that's the kind of service that you're offering, but also for yourself and your own healing, Pluto in the 6th house can be helpful for that. Then on the 25th, Mars goes into Cancer, and this for you is the 11th house of hopes and wishes. So here's an example. Finally, Mars leaves that sign of Gemini. It leaves your 10th house, it goes into your 11th house. And this can be very aggressive when it comes to social situations. So it's almost like enlisting people that you are in this position of getting people to together for some reason. Um, Networking, um, going after your goals full throttle, but not just your career goals, all of the things that you want to do in life. Why is that? Well, maybe if, let's say, you have recently gotten divorced, you may feel like you have a new lease on life. Maybe your partner, your ex, didn't share the same dreams you had, and you felt like you couldn't do what you wanted to do. And so now you just feel that sense of freedom, and it just makes you want to grab the gusto, to use a 70s beer commercial slogan. So, yeah, things like that. Um, the, there sometimes Mars can be conflict, and with the 11th house, it can be with people in your social circle. And sometimes this occurs when your ideals are clashing with others. And this has been a theme for the collective. By the way, the 11th house is a collective. This has been a theme for the collective with family members, with friends, um, for the last few years because of certain things that have happened that people do not necessarily share the same opinion about. And even before that, there have been, at least in the United States, there have been a lot of political disagreements and things like that. And why is that happening? It's really happening because, especially if you consider yourself a spiritual person, things are falling away. That's Pluto and Capricorn really speaks on that at a mundane level with our systems that we have set up. Um, but even with those mundane changes, people are going to be changed on a spiritual level. They can't help but be changed. If things are crumbling around you that you thought were going to save you, were going to, do whatever, it can make people feel like they don't have solid ground, and it makes them apprehensive, very fearful, because they don't have that structure. But that was a false structure. So for those of you who understand why things have had to happen as they do, you're in the position to be kind of like holding space for those other people, but that doesn't mean that they will cooperate with that, because sometimes people, become very irrational and, due to their fear, and you might find that you are not resonating with them anymore. So, um, as long as you know that you're not being combative, which is what Mars represents, if you have conflict with them, then you don't have to feel like it's the end of the world, because it's not. It's the end of the old world, but not in the sense that everything, is doom and gloom. So, this may also make you very motivated to utilize technology for some reason. I would say, especially if you're launching your own business, this might be giving you more activity in this area of the internet and how you can use it to promote yourself. And maybe, because this is a period of time until the third week in April where it's supposed to be really great to launch things. So some of you, very likely, just the odds in life are that some of you are launching something and you might be much more inclined to use the internet to do so. All right, that's what I have for you, Virgo. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings simply because they're more comprehensive. As a moon in Virgo, I was one of those people bogged down in details, and I was doing I still can't believe I ever offered hour-long combination natal chart and transit readings. That it simply wasn't enough time. And so I just expanded each reading to an hour. And I have a package deal for the transits and the natal chart analysis for a special price. That's called my deep dive reading. For people who like the tarot, I have the whole enchilada package deal, and that involves the natal chart as well. And I have standalone readings for people just want one thing, and but that also includes life path readings. Kind of like if you're at a crossroads in your life and you just want to see what the chart says about your talents and timing issues too. And you can find out more information at the link below. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.